Hello and welcome to Philosophy 201, Intro to Philosophy. I'm Dr. Hodges. And we're going to be meeting this way on the internet all semester because I have a medical condition that leaves me with a compromised immune system. The medications I take for psoriatic arthritis, that finger, for example, doesn't bend, work by suppressing my immune system. And in this COVID environment, I may be old, but I still like living. Now, we need to go over the syllabus because it's a contract. I will not have conference hours as such because I'm working from home. You can email me hodgesdh@graham.edu or send a message in Canvas. If we need to meet, we can either set up a Zoom or meet with you, set up a time for me to meet with you in my office. If we meet face to face, I will wear a mask in order to protect you, and I will ask you to wear a mask in order to protect me. But I think we can do most things via Canvas messaging. Now, the description, what do we do in Intro to Philosophy? Well, the thing about philosophy that frustrates some students is that they just want to know what the answers are. And the problem with that in philosophy is that we don't have answers. We have questions. Philosophy is all about raising questions, fundamental questions. What is the meaning of life? What is it that makes some actions good and others bad? How do we know things? Not this or that specific thing, but how do we know anything? What is knowledge anyway? What does it mean when we say we know something? When we talk about God, what do we mean by the word God? Those kinds of questions, and there are no agreed upon answers. This is what separates philosophy from the sciences. In fact, if you go to a library organized using the Dewey Decimal System, you will find that one of the social sciences, the psychology books, are right smack dab in the middle of the philosophy books. And the reason is that psychology developed into a science with agreed upon answers and procedures after the Dewey Decimal System had been developed. Okay. Basically, everything started off as a branch of philosophy. But when it develops answers that everybody and procedures for deriving answers, like the scientific method, okay, it spins out into a separate discipline. Philosophy is where we have questions. And we're trying to make sense of things, but we don't have answers that are agreed on. It's about asking the questions about reasoning, about persuasion, about giving reasons for our positions. But we don't have hard and fast answers. It's about asking questions. And so what we're going to be looking at are things like the nature of reality. The nature and methods of gaining knowledge. The philosophy of religion. We're going to think about, what are we? Who are we? Are we mind? Are we body? How do we know what's good and what's bad? What's right, what's wrong? What's just, what's unjust? We're going to look at a number of different opinions about these topics that have been argued and held over time. But in no case is there a hard and fast answer. In fact, if you don't at some point this semester wind up asking yourself, can I be sure of anything? You haven't been paying attention. So the purpose of this course is less to teach you information than to make you think, to make you question. Now, yes, of course, what I'm going to be grading you on is how well do you understand not only the answers that different philosophers have given, but the reasons that they gave for those answers. And that's what you need to really focus on. In the process, I hope that you will work out some of your own philosophy of life, but that's not something I can grade you on. But I do think that's the purpose. See, I think we need more people who ask questions and fewer people who just swallow what people tell them. What is justice in society? What does that mean? What would that look like? How do we get there? I want to make you think about those kind of issues. Now, your textbook is Introducing Philosophy by Robert Solomon, Kathleen Higgins, and Clancy Martin. Okay. And I want to emphasize that it is absolutely essential that you have and read this book. Okay. The online discussions that take the place of classroom discussion, the number one criteria that I'm going to use in grading your responses is, can I see evidence in your response that you have read and understood the assignment? If I don't see evidence that you have read the assignment, or at least making an attempt to understand it, if you don't understand it perfectly, that's fine. I can work with that. But if you're not reading it, 0 points. If instead of reading, for example, in the introduction to the book, one of the things we're going to look at is the apology of Socrates, his defense when he's on trial. If instead of reading that, you read a paragraph off of Wikipedia about it, that's not going to cut the mustard. And if you plagiarize, and I will know that you have, that's going to be a 0 too. Okay. I need you to explain things in your own words so that I can see the extent to which you are understanding them. Just copying and pasting something off the internet, I could train a chimpanzee to do that. Okay? You're not going to learn anything that way. And it's really all about learning. So get the book, read the book. If you don't read the book, your chances of passing the class are essentially zero. Now, I don't know why anybody would want to take a class over again. And yeah, I know books are expensive. Okay? Rent an ebook if you want to. That's fine. But you need to have a copy of the book somehow, some way. Okay? Books may be expensive, but they're cheaper than having to take the course over again. And while I'm at it, my parents helped pay my way through college. My major in college was philosophy and religion combined with English literature. I don't know what my dad would have done had I brought D's and F's home from college. My dad was a drill sergeant in the Army during World War II. I did not want to find out. I'm pretty sure it would have hurt. Now, how the course is organized, if you look at your syllabus, course content, and assignment due dates, the book is divided into 3 parts. Part 1 is the world and beyond. The course is subdivided into a series of modules. And really the way this is structured is that you start at the top and work your way down toward the bottom. We start with Module 1. What is philosophy? And the reading there is the introduction to the book. That module is going to have 2 lessons in it. The first covers the syllabus. Okay? Making sure everybody knows what is required in the course, how you're going to be graded, etc. Lesson 1.2 is going to cover the reading from the introduction and what philosophy is and what it isn't. After you finish those, then you move on to Module 2, which will have several different lessons in it. When you've worked your way through all those, then you move on to Module 3. Now, the pace that I have used in putting the syllabus together is 2 lessons per week, and where you have exams that count, each of the exams counts as a lesson, because you're going to be submitting an essay 3 times during the semester. The last one is your final exam. You do not have a comprehensive final exam in this course. The final exam is simply the last one. Covers Unit 3, Ethics and Politics. The rule of thumb in a traditional face-to-face class is you spend 2 to 3 hours outside of class working on coursework for every hour that you spend in class. And so I've kind of used that as a frame of reference. So you should expect to spend somewhere between 9 and 12 hours per week working on this course. And I would emphasize, again, that internet courses put a premium on students reading. In this case, we're going to be reading this textbook, and there may be 1 or 2 other things that I give you to read on Canvas. In fact, I know there's going to be at least 1. I'll introduce that when we get to that point in the course. And responding to those readings. Now, to help you, I will also have in each lesson one or more videos. Some I will make trying to help you understand some of the concepts in some of the reading selections. Others are I'll have other people who I think did a good job of explaining a particular philosopher's views. And yeah, I found those videos on YouTube. Okay? But not everything on YouTube is of equal value. And so, with all apologies, because I spent my adult life studying this stuff, I think I'm in a better position to evaluate how good a particular video is at presenting philosophy than most of you would be. In fact, I'm kind of think that's part of my job, particularly with an online course. But those videos are not a substitute for your reading the assignment. They're designed to help you understand the readings. Okay? Your responses to the discussions have to engage the readings. There are other resources that I'll have on Canvas for you. There's a set of PDF slides that the author put together that I have, used in class some when I would teach the class face to face. And I have those on Canvas for you to look at. They may help you. But I also want to warn you, he talks a lot in there about the philosophers' lives. I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in the philosophers' ideas, because I think that's much more important to philosophy than whether or not somebody ever got married. Okay. One of the rules of philosophy, by the way, is no ad hominem arguments. An ad hominem argument is where you attack the person rather than the idea. The person may be a schmuck, but that doesn't invalidate the ideas that they articulated. For that matter, if somebody failed to live up to the ideals that they hold up as what we ought to live by, that still doesn't mean that those ideals are wrong. It just means that they didn't live up to them. Okay, that's the fault of the person, not the idea. So you need to keep up. Each of the assignments will have two dates on it. One is the due date that will show up in your calendar, and the other is the deadline. Okay, the deadline for submitting an assignment is going to be well after the due date in most cases. But it is an absolute deadline. What that means is that that's the date you have to get it done by, and if you don't get it done by then, you're not going to be able to turn that one in. Zeros kill grades. Okay? So don't plan on waiting until the end of the semester to try to do all the work. If you could do a semester's worth of work in 2 weeks, you know what? The semester would only need to last 2 weeks. So you need to get started week 1, August 10th through 14th. In fact, you need to complete Module 1 that first week. Now, if you add the class late, and Grambling is good about doing that, it will still be up for a while. But A, you need to do it as quickly as you do enroll in the course. And B, you need to do that before you move on to Module 2. And you need to do Module 2 before you move on to Module 3, because everything builds on what we have done before. You can't just flush everything from Part 1 once we finish that and move on to Part 2 either, by the way. When we get to the end of the semester, the last of the lessons is due November 6th, which is the last day of classes on the revised calendar. And then November 9th and 10th, the final exam for candidates for graduation. And if you're one of those candidates, I need all of your work completed by 9 a.m. that Friday. 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. I guess that would be November 13th. And the reason for that is very simple. That's when I have to turn your grades in if you're a candidate for graduation. The rest of you, your final exam, and remember that's the Unit 3 essay, is the week of November 16th to 24th. I do not give you a specific time. I'm not saying everybody has to take the exam at time X on day Y. Because we don't have a class meeting time. I give you that period to do it in. It's on you to find the time to get it done. Okay. If you are not a candidate for graduation, the very latest you can turn anything in would be November 25th at noon, and that will only be the assignments for the last part of the course. The first Part 1 and Part 2 at least, those deadlines will be earlier than that. Okay? I don't want to have everything piled up on me at the end of the semester either. And I don't think it's good for you. What works when it comes to learning things is to work at it step by step gradually, not try to cram it all in at the last minute. That is not how you do quality work. And that is not a formula for success. Neither is procrastination. Trying to put everything off to the last minute, hoping that somehow, some way, you will get out of having to do it. He who does the work gets the learning. I already know this material. I spent my adult life studying it. Longer than most of you have been breathing. Okay, my college degree is dated 1977. Okay. So, keep at it. You should plan on doing 2 lessons every week unless you are on your deathbed. Then you should plan on doing 1 lesson a week. We've talked about you're going to be reading the textbooks and other materials. Watch the videos. You should watch the video with the textbook in your hand. And make notes where the video explains something that's in your book. We should highlight that. You participate in online discussions. You'll take reading tests on computer. I do have objective reading quizzes to also measure whether or not you're reading the book. You're doing them on computer on your own, so of course they are open book. Of course, that only helps if you have the book. And, looking somebody up on Wikipedia is not going to be a substitute. You must read the textbook. I'm going to say that until I get you to believe it. You need to be able to not only watch videos online, but you need to be able to read both PDF documents and possibly Microsoft Word documents. You may even need to edit Microsoft Word documents. As I'm doing this, I haven't put all of the lessons together yet. Some of them I may give you a kind of like a form to fill out. And I'll need to do that in Microsoft Word format. So what I'm saying is a cell phone may not be enough. You may need to have a tablet or a laptop at least to be able to handle that. Plus, two other things about cell phones. One, unless you have unlimited and truly unlimited data, all the videos and everything is going to eat up your data on your cell phone. Secondly, cell phones and Canvas don't always play nice together when it comes to taking the online quizzes. I've had a number of students tell me that they had taken a quiz on their cell phone, but when I went and looked in Canvas, there was nothing there. And I mean nil point zip. Okay? I can't fix that. I can't guess how you would have done on the quiz. So if you're going to try to do a quiz on your cell phone, you better check your grades afterwards to make sure that it went through. Because if it didn't, don't come to me asking me to do something about it. That's your responsibility. Okay? See, I give you 2 courses for the price of one. I give you Philosophy 201, but I also give you what I call Reality 101, Introduction to the Real World. The person responsible for taking care of you is you. Okay? Just like I took responsibility for me and did the paperwork to teach my classes online from home to protect my health. Grambling, I don't look to Grambling to protect my health. I mean, I think they're taking some reasonable steps. But at the end of the day, the person responsible for taking care of me is me. And the person responsible for taking care of you is you. Now, when we get to the end of the semester, and it's time to calculate your grade, here's how that's going to work. I've already said you're going to do 3 essay exams. Submitting an essay on Canvas for each of the major units. The World and Beyond, Know Thyself, and The Good and the Right. Each of those is going to be 100 points. Okay. There's a series of reading tests that you're going to do on Canvas. 2 in the first module, 1 each in the second and third modules. And those, each reading test has its own number of points, but they all add up to 253. And the discussions, 1 per lesson, will add up to 347. And so that adds up to 900 points total. And the way I grade is very simple. It's based on the total number of points. I don't try to average how you did on this part and how you did on this part. It's total points. A point is a point is a point no matter where you got it. 900 points possible. The 90% range is an A. So 720 points or more, you make an A. If you're in the 80% range, at least 640 points, you make a B. If you are in the 70% range, 560 points is the bottom cutoff to make a C. And if you're in the 60% range, 480 points is the minimum to obtain a D. Anything below that results in an invitation to take the class again. Now, let me warn you, I am unapologetically old school. F is a grade. I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but if that's the grade you make, that's the grade you get. I don't give grades. I record them. You actually give yourself the grade by the quality of work that you do. And I might add also, to some extent, the quantity. Zeros kill grades. If something should happen at the very end of the semester, as sometimes does happen to some people, if there's if you get, God forbid, you get COVID and you're in ICU, have mama send me an email. If there's a death in your family, send me a message in Canvas. Let me know. If you're passing up to that point and there's not much work left to do, I can give an incomplete. But if you don't tell me, I just calculate your grade with a 0 for the final exam. Because assignments are completed online, and I don't assign specific, you must do it at exactly this time. I don't deal with excuses. I can't grade excuses. I can only grade assignments. For your reading quizzes, you have up to 5 attempts. If your essay or your discussions are plagiarized, notice the statement on plagiarism, that is a 0. I do not want you cutting and pasting stuff off the internet. I want you explaining things in your own words, because that's the only way that I can measure how well you're understanding it. Okay. If you have some sort of disability, there's a statement about the disability services. I want to highlight the section headed How to Read Your Textbook and Make an A in Philosophy. Be sure you read that. I think it applies to most classes, but it's very relevant for this course. Read the introduction. Your textbook is a textbook where the author explains things, but he also gives you primary source readings. If we're talking about David Hume, he will introduce and talk about David Hume's ideas, but then he will also give you a selection of from David Hume himself. Use the introduction to help you know what to look for in the primary source selection, and you can identify those. They have a blue line in the margin of the textbook. So I don't know if you can see the blue line here. This is primary source material. This is your author's explanation of this and introduction of this primary source material that follows. But don't skip over the primary source selections. Read through them. Use the introduction to help you know what to look for, and look for them in the primary source material until you find it. Read your textbook as if you were going to have to teach that material to the class. Okay? Read it, summarize it. If there are key words that you're not familiar with, look them up. The back of your textbook has a glossary